This is the Yamaha T-Max 560 Tech-Max. Sorry, that's a bad name, but this is a very good scooter. Now, it's going to cost you a bit more than your average scooter, but this is no average scooter. It's something that has more features than some cars have, and this thing is designed to be ridden every single day in comfort and something you look forward to jumping on and riding on two wheels rather than dreading it. So much so that I've come out here in the rain to review this thing because one, need to do it for my schedule, and two, I just wanted to prove that this thing is that comfortable to ride around on compared to your average motorcycle. Now, whether you're looking to get a scooter to commute and keep your motorcycle for weekends, or just jump the boat and get an upgrade on your existing scooter, well, this might be the one for you. This is a learner-approved luxurious scooter, and I want to walk you around all the features you're getting for your cash and also tell you what it's like to ride and let you know if it's worth buying, or should you just hang on to your learner rider motorcycle, or should you simply just keep with something a bit more basic like a Vespa. And so with all that said, my name's Cameron. This is Product Review Cars, but this is a motorcycle review. Let's get into it. Now, Yamaha's asking a smidge under $20,000 right away for this bike here, and it's available only in this color for this model. Now, that is a bit of cash, and so I want to dissect this bike and see what we're getting for that amount of money. Okay, so starting from front to back. So at the front, we have twin disc brakes. They are massive, and they obviously have to be quite big because this thing is quite heavy. This thing weighs just over 200 kilos, which is obviously a bit more than your average motorcycle or scooter. Now, we do have these twin LED headlights up front, which look quite good, and they're very bright, and you even have a pass/flash button here, which I really appreciate, so that's quite cool. Now, we also do have upside down forks up front, so this is sort of looking very reminiscent of some of Yamaha's motorcycles rather than a general scooter. And we also have some nice black alloys both front and rear. Now, as you can see here, there's a giant front shroud here, and this is designed to help basically block a bunch of wind out of your way and help with aerodynamics. Now, I do like the mirror placement. They're nice and forwards, but I do think they're just a tad too small for daily use. I did find them just a little bit irritating, especially if you're adjusting your riding position all the time. Now, we have to talk about this windshield here. This is designed to help block a whole bunch of wind from your chest, and I can tell you what, after hopping off a motorcycle that I rode the same stretch of highway with, and then once I had this thing, it was just a completely different riding experience. I really quite like this windshield. And so you can actually adjust it using a little toggle here on the handlebars, which is a multi-function toggle. You can go ahead and actually raise it. Check that out, that's so cool. And it means that you're getting even more surface area blocked by this giant windshield and protecting you from wind and rain, which is quite good. Now, along the side here, you do have a pretty generous seating area, and it's really easy to hop on. You just sort of throw your feet over, but I do find that you can bang your foot against the sort of center area here quite often. So yeah, just make sure you're not wearing anything that's gonna be scuffing this all too often, or maybe a bit of protective film might be worthwhile. Now, you have this normal riding position here, which we see on most scooters, but then you also have this recline position, and you have a little rest here on the actual seat to help you get more comfortable. So I really like this cruiser position that you can get for longer trips. Now, this is a keyless scooter, which means when you're in proximity with this bike, you can go ahead and press the giant power button there, and you can use that to either lock the bike, you can unlock the seat, and when the bike's all off, you can have a keyless experience when opening the fuel door. So it's just a whole lot less messy if you don't like taking off your gloves to try and find your keys and fiddle around with that. So I do appreciate that for the convenience factor. Now, up here on the handlebars, I really like how tidy everything is, and it's just nice and clean. Now, we do have a full digital display here, and it's quite cool because you can customize the look of it and also get all your information at a glance, which is very easy to read. It's high contrast, and I really appreciate how easy it is to control simple things like your heated grips. Yes, this has heated grips, which are three-way adjustable, and you also have a three-way adjustable heated seat as well. And then, of course, you can adjust your screen through the screen here. There are some ride modes. You have a sport mode and a touring mode, so we'll test those when we're out riding. And additionally, we also have adjustable levers up here for your brakes, which is quite useful to help get really comfortable with this bike. And in addition, this bike also has a parking brake, which, you know, something like Vespa doesn't really include, so I do like that inclusion there. Now there is a tiny little compartment on this side here, which is where you can put your phone, your keys, and everything in between. It's not massive, but it is very useful, and especially if you have your phone nearby, you do have a USB port there, so you can charge your phone or any other devices in that little port here. And it has a little seal around the outside, so you don't really have to worry about water getting in. Now you can connect your phone and control your phone through the screen, which is quite useful, and you can go and use some of Yamaha's apps in here, but yeah, they do require a subscription fee for some of that stuff, so it's a little bit finicky like that. But it's nice that this bike has Bluetooth. You can connect your headset to this as well, so it's easy to control stuff like volume and tracks through the screen. That's also connected to your phone and then connected to your headset. Now let's talk about the under seat storage area. Pop the seat using the button here, and it pops open nicely like that. It's a very easy function to do, and it's not too complicated to operate. Now there's enough space for your helmet and maybe some groceries, but nothing too much more. It's a giant bucket area, but I wish it was just a tiny bit longer, because I was trying to fit my tripod bag in here and that didn't fit, so it was just a little bit frustrating. They had all the space, but I couldn't really make the most of it. But yes, it's very useful to store at least one helmet in here when you're going and shopping, for example, or going to work. And at the back, the passenger seat is really quite comfortable. It's well sponged, and you also have some footrests here, so you can have a pillion passenger when you've graduated your full license. And then at the back, we have a generously sized rear disc. And then the other thing as well is that you have a giant exhaust here on the right side of the bike, and a little T-Max badge running across the bodywork. This is a nicely styled bike. It looks quite aggressive, and next to a traditional Vespa, this thing looks like it's from the future. It looks like it's from 20 years ahead of what the retro design of the Vespa is trying to achieve. And it's also worth noting that this motor is quite central to the bike's design. It's not towards the back like a lot of scooters, which have them quite close to the rear wheel and then has the transmission directly onto that. You can see here the giant exhaust which attaches to that inline twin is just sitting right in the middle of the bike, which should help with handling. Again, we'll test that in just a moment. Now, riding this motorcycle or scooter, whatever you want to call it, it's a bit of a hybrid. It's a very comfortable experience. Now, this isn't my first scooter I've ever ridden. My dad actually buys a lot of Vespas, and it's his favorite way to commute around because it's super convenient, super easy to ride, and I've had a go at a couple of them, even the most powerful Vespas you can buy, and they're a lot of fun. I see the appeal. So what happens when you throw more money, more features, and a bigger motor into the scooter formula? Well, you get this. Immediately you notice the extra power you're getting in this thing. This is one of the most powerful scooters you can buy. So having 560 cc's and a parallel twin motor was a lot of fun to have on a scooter, which usually just has one cylinder and a very lame sort of riding experience when you're looking at just the engine alone. Now I jumped onto the freeway after just picking this up, and I was able to get up to speed with no problems. I had plenty of torque, and the power is just there. Now this is an automatic bike, so there's no gears to go through. It has a CVT transmission, very traditional scooter experience, and it was just so easy to ride. So I could imagine if I had to do lots of kilometers in this thing, I wouldn't have a problem doing that at all. Now the ergonomics of this bike is just really quite nice. So you've got this sort of more laid back sitting upright position, and then you have that second position which I showed you earlier, where you can sort of lean back a little bit and use that backrest and get nice and comfortable. On top of that, you have a heated seat, heated grips, and you also have cruise control. And on a day like today, which I was filming, it was just so wet and damp and gross, and I just felt like the last thing I want to do was jump onto a motorcycle and feel super cold. But then once I was getting up to riding and the heated grips and heated seat were working, they get really quite hot. So I was actually relatively comfortable. And that leads me on to the giant windshield, which is adjustable, which is even better to block out any sort of rain and wind. So it's really something you could ride every day and every sort of weather conditions, as long as it's not flooding. Now, if you're cornering in a Vespa, you have to slow down quite a lot because you have smaller wheels and a very upright riding position. Where the Yamaha T-Max comes in, this thing is very unique because it has a very low center of gravity compared to other sort of Vespas, because that engine is nice and low, and also it's got some riding dynamics and obviously components from Yamaha's performance motorcycles. So cornering was actually so fun in this thing. It does take a little while to get used to that sort of unique cruiser riding position, and then sort of leaning in
point as well. But once you get used to that, you have a very capable motorcycle that can take corners nice and quick, especially if you want to have a bit of fun on this thing. And that leads me on to the ride mode. So you have two ride modes. You have touring and sport. So touring was a pretty relatively normal riding experience. And then when you switch into sport, you do get a more interesting gauge cluster, but obviously your throttle response gets a bit more responsive. So you get a more lively motorcycle in sport. But then if you just want to do day-to-day riding and have a bit more of a comfortable experience and just sort of have a normal accelerated feel, then touring is the mode I would use the most. Now, the only problem I had with this bike was the fact that those mirrors were just a little too small for my liking. So it just made blind spots a little bit bigger than I would have liked on the highway. So it just means that you just got to be extra careful, make sure you swivel your head around like you normally should be doing. But if we had slightly bigger mirrors, it would have been nicer to be able to see a little bit more. And then, yeah, the other issue was parking, because this thing is so massive and quite heavy compared to a Vespa. It's not quite as easy to throw up onto the stand compared to the side stands. So if you've got a tighter parking space and you need the bike to be vertical rather than leaning to the side, then yeah, you're going to have to make sure you work on that leg press at the gym, because even me at 5'11" and weighing just under 80 kilos, I found a bit of an issue to sort of lift this heavy bike on an awkward incline onto that actual bigger stand. But overall, what you have here is basically a very unique motorcycle, because it is like a hybrid between a motorcycle and a scooter. And so it makes it a very good daily rider option. If you don't like the idea of riding a cruiser type or touring type motorcycle, you want that scooter experience, but you want all those sort of cruiser motorcycle features like heated grips. You also want that really complicated digital display, which you can hook your phone up to and get navigation. And you also have a very trick windshield as well to make daily riding more comfortable. But you also have the cool components like those upside down forks, those giant twin discs up front. You also have a very playful motor as well. The only issue is that it isn't automatic, but for some, they may prefer that for day-to-day riding. And it is worth noting that that twin cylinder motor sounds so much better than a single cylinder when you're really getting on it. And it's a lot more fun to ride around than a single cylinder scooter.
Now, you're probably looking at buying a scooter because you think it's convenient, easy to ride, and it's comfortable, which this bike mostly is. And if you've already been riding a scooter and you're looking for an upgrade, well, this is the bike for you, because it's extremely comfortable and it makes daily riding that much easier. Now, the only problem I have with this bike is the physical size of it. This thing is massive, and that's sort of the trade-off you're getting for it being more comfortable to ride day to day. So it means those tighter parking spaces in the city, for example, might be a bit harder to get in and out of. And also, if you sleep in and you get that last slim spot, you might not be able to with this bike because it's so big. But with city parking aside, it is very easy to live with day to day. I actually found this to be surprisingly easy to maneuver and operate despite this weighing quite a lot. And I really actually had a lot of fun riding this thing. Yes, it's not as fun to ride as a motorcycle if you're coming from the motorcycle world, but I really think this as a scooter is a fantastic in-between if you're looking for that. And it just makes it so easy to live with when you've got plenty of creature comforts like this windshield in combination with the heated grips and seats and also cruise control, because it just makes riding on a day like this so much less stressful and so much less uncomfortable. So that's why I really like riding around on this thing. But I will say that price is still quite high. And yes, you have to really know you want these features. And that's why I'm saying people who are riding scooters at the moment probably know they want to upgrade to this rather than jumping into this as a brand new scooter if you've never ridden one before, because these features will feel like it's worth spending that extra cash. But if you're just cross shopping from the get-go, yeah, cheaper options like even Vespa might seem more appealing at first. But then as you ride day in, day out, and you actually figure out you want some of those more creature comforts and you want maybe a bit better handling, then the Yamaha will do the job for you. Now, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you dropping by and checking out this video. If you want to see more motorcycle reviews, you can check them out on our channel. And also, if you have anything to say about this, let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it. I'll see you in the next one.